Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Core Energy Experience. I'm your host, Kurt Bruckmann. I hold my mastery in core energy dynamics. I'm a certified global coach. I write for Brains Magazine as a senior contributor writer, which reaches 65 plus different countries. I am an internationally acclaimed best-selling author in an anthology, Ready, Connect, Grow. I am also here with my partner, Alex Fabio. He is our associate director and co-producer. Today, we are very fortunate to have a special guest. Her name's Kat Maranino. She is a real estate broker, a singer, and a mom. Kat and I have met earlier in our careers, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, we're going to talk a lot about Kat. She's very special, has tremendous energy, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Let's get into our conversation with Kat. Hey, Kat, good to see you. I'm so happy to have you on with us today.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we've seen one another, and it's great that you're here. So if you could, if you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself to get us going, would be great.
Sure. So my name is Kat Maranino. I am currently the director of sales for a real estate team. I've been in the real estate industry for about 10 years. I'm a second generation realtor. Besides selling real estate, I am the front woman of a pop country band, and we play like the casino circuits and township events. And, so both of those things like fulfill my creativity. And, I'm a mom. I have a son that's going to be 7 this month.
Yeah.
So I'm busy.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
It sounds busy. So when you talk about, let's go into the real estate real quick, because that's where we met, actually, right?
Yep.
And that was some time ago. So how is the real estate in the area? And is it just Monmouth County and Ocean that you concern yourself with, or how is that for you? So
I've kind of taken a step back from sales, now that I'm kind of in a leadership role. But, the market in Monmouth County is always doing well. I cover Ocean, Monmouth, and Middlesex. Actually, when I first started in real estate, I was primarily doing Middlesex and Union and Somerset County.
Wow.
But I moved down to Monmouth County in 2016. And I think by 2017 is probably when you and I met, because I was trying to do the math in my head before. And I'm like, I feel like that was like almost 10 years ago. And it was.
Wow.
So
it goes by so fast, Kat. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I interrupted you a little bit. So you were saying that more that you're in now in more of a leadership role, which sounds all about you in the real estate. Are you finding that more rewarding than as an agent?
Yeah. So when I started real estate, my mom actually dragged me into the industry. It was something that I did not want to do. I was doing hair for 10 or 11 years. It wasn't fulfilling to me anymore. And it was also very hard on my body. It was like 10 hours a day standing, and your arms are constantly up.
Multitasking like mad all day long, huh?
Yeah, and it's like physically and mentally exhausting.
Sure.
It's like the cliche that your hairstylist is your therapist, and it is. It becomes like very heavy at the end of the day. And I remember I used to come home from work, and my husband at the time, now my ex-husband, he used to want to like chat and catch up. And I'm like, I can't talk to another person today. So
Understood.
My mom was like begging me for a long time to get into real estate. And I just thought, like, I don't want to go from one commission job to the next. I think this next go around, I want something more secure. And she's like, but you'd be so good at it. So
she's right there. You have a great personality, if I might say so. She's right about all that.
Well, and a lot of the skills that I used doing hair translate to real estate. You getting people to like and trust you are part of both of those industries. So it was actually a smooth transition, and it was just really me learning the industry end of things. So she was right. In my first 6 months of real estate, I closed 10 transactions.
Wow. Gotta love
Yeah.
that. You go.
I was at the right age. You know, I was 27. All my friends were starting to buy houses at that time. Any lead that came my way, I worked it till the end. And I surprised myself at how well I did. But if it weren't for my mom guiding me, I don't know how successful I would have been on my own. And so that's why, being in a leadership role now and training and coaching people who don't have their mom mentoring them is really important to me, because this industry can be very lonely and cutthroat. And, I like having that partnership with somebody and watch somebody learn and grow. So I find it to be very rewarding.
Yeah, we're hearing a couple of things in there. One is, that trust aspect of how we operate ourselves. And, in the core energy, we talk about 4 main concentrations, and all people have them. And you're speaking to it already, Kat. And the 4 concentrations are leadership, transition, well-being, and performance. So you're already hitting on them here. All 4 happens quickly, right? And this is what we're trying to bring more awareness to people, and appreciate you doing that. So when you went from the transition and as you put it, the heaviness at the end of the day as a hairstylist, and then into your role as an agent, and then now into your, again, leadership all the way through this, into your current role in the real estate market. What precipitated it? What really got you to take your action? Because now you were trusting your process about making the transition from the hairstylist into the real estate. Was there any one thing or a couple of things that stood out in that transition for you?
From going from hair to real estate?
Yeah.
The main thing for me was, it was around the same time that internet tutorials started becoming really popular.
Yeah.
And clients would watch something online and then come sit in the chair and direct me how to do, well, no, they did it like this in the video, and they did, and I'm like,
oh, wow.
I felt like there's already this perception, which I think nowadays has cleared up a little bit, but then there was like a perception that like hairstylists were kind of just like dumb, like we just did hair and like had fun and
sure,
so when things started getting like that, I felt insulted by it. And I felt like, this is my passion. I spent time learning this. I went to the Paul Mitchell School. It was like a very expensive school, like
I know it.
around the world,
Yeah.
And because my parents also didn't want me being a hairstylist, so I was kind of fighting against that perception of like hairstylists not really being a professional. And so when I started feeling like my intelligence was being questioned, I really started losing my passion for it.
Understood.
Yeah.
A lot going on there. It's interesting, all people have value, and whatever that value is different from each other. So to have that vernacular that, oh, well, this is how you're supposed to be doing my hair because you're just a hairstylist. Well, listen, you're more than that. Hairstylists are creative. They're very creative. And you obviously have that as part of who you are, because you, as you move forward and you explained, your transition into the real estate, which is it needs to be very creative, right? Yeah, as a leader.
Yeah.
Tell us how you're doing that in real estate, using your creativity as a leader.
Well, as you probably know, every transaction is different. It's like very rare that you get something that's like going smoothly. So
what is that? Can we go there for a second? What is that about human nature? Why is it in that moment, Kat, that things start to get a little derailed, or, it's all different always? I'm not saying different is bad, but, different is good because we grow. But
yeah.
Talk about that real quick. It's interesting.
I feel like emotion plays a lot into it. And one of the things I pride myself on is that I feel like I can communicate to my client with empathy that this is a business transaction. And I know better than anybody, like moving out of my childhood home, moving out of my marital home, like there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. And it's okay that it's emotional. And it's okay. A lot of people are like, well, this doesn't feel good. It must be a sign. And it's like, change is uncomfortable. Like, it's not just going to be like a big celebration all the way through. There's things that happen. And, you have to think about the reward at the end of it. You can't just run purely on emotion during a real estate transaction.
Yeah, you hit on a couple of things there. Change, and change equals awareness plus understanding. So that's where people get a little funky, right? Because they're not quite understanding of it, or are they really quite aware? So in your leadership role, and the fact that you're empathetic to it all, great that you're able to help them understand that change is here and change is a good thing. And that's what they want anyway, right? I mean, they're making a transaction for a new home. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting how that all operates, but that's how human behavior is. So let's go a little bit further and tell the audience about your other creative side. You have so much creativity to you. That's part of your beauty, Kat. Really fabulous stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and about your creative musical side. Let's go there for a while.
So I've been singing since I'm about 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, we have really, if I do say so myself, cute home videos of me singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That was like, my favorite song. How'd
that start out? Were your family musicians, or was there singing going on in the house? How'd that start for you?
Well, my uncle, my mom's brother, is a musician. He's a singer, songwriter, piano player, and I think he's an absolute genius. He's just...
Sounds it.
He's just one of those guys that, like, you're like, what's that Steely Dan song, that goes, and he's like, oh, that's Peg. That was on the blah, blah, blah album that came out in 19 blah, blah, and I'm like, how do you like,
wow.
And besides the fact that he has about like 50 years worth of gigging under his belt, and he uses no sheet music, no iPad, no nothing. Like, it's just
really
pure memory. Yeah, he started playing the piano at 3 years old, and he used to sit at the top of my grandparents' stairs and watch my mom take piano lessons. And then when my mom's piano lesson was over, he would come downstairs and just know it.
He'd mimic it, yeah.
Yeah, so he definitely is like on another level.
Yeah, well, he sounds like he's very intuitive, but as part of it, he's got that instinct for it all. Yeah,
he's probably the most fascinating person I've ever met.
Cool.
And so I really enjoyed growing up, going to his gigs, and I was in the choir at school and the musical theater and dance, and I always liked performing, but I had an insecurity about it. I didn't mind like being in the ensemble, but I never wanted to be like the star. And it wasn't until my grandfather passed away. He was like the most special person in my life. And I wanted to do something in his memory. And I thought, I'm really going to like push myself and join a band. And so I found my first band on Craigslist, and I've been,
You are such a go-getter, you are. Gosh, that's huge. Who would think of that? Who would have the guts to even think of something like that? That takes courage, you know? I mean, that's fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been in bands for the last 15 years. So, you know, I was very lucky to find 3 amazing musicians on Craigslist, because that could have wound up pretty bad, probably.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
But then like getting into that, you know, circle of musicians, now it's like a big network that, you know, everybody kind of knows each other from somewhere. So that's how I wound up in the band that I'm in now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so tell us a bit about the band. First of all, I just want to touch on something real quick, Kat. You know, there's a lot going on with you, and it seems to be an underlying theme that, one, you like to collaborate, right? Mm-hmm. You're good at collaboration, and of course, it's part of your creativity. But, you know, you have that courage. You don't seem to, I haven't heard, other than the one little part when you're a little younger about it all, about stepping into singing and how it felt, that you don't carry fear, it doesn't sound like. And in the core energy, this is one thing we work with a lot, is that fear is like an alarm clock. It's something that is here to actually help us. It's letting us know something's happening. We're not going to be able to stop it in the moment. And therefore, it's best for us to take it in with awareness and with acceptance and work with it in that moment. Don't let it hang out. Don't let it fester. Don't let it stay, because we know what happens then, you know, down the rabbit hole, depression and all those low-lying energies. And in the core energy, you work with 2 types of energies: anabolic, which is a filling, constructive energy, a dopamine based, and then the opposite is cortisol dumps, which brings on catabolic feelings, and that's a destructive energy and whatnot. You know, sort of low-lying energy. Oh, I'm not good enough. And by the way, speaking of good enough, we're all better than we think we are. And
yeah, that's definitely true.
Right, you noticed that, yeah. Right? It's so true. But back to it, the fact that you have that courage is fascinating, because that's what we all need to do. And you're a testament in the fact that you take action in it. You know, a lot of us think, yeah, well, I'm going to do it, and then we procrastinate. Well, that doesn't work out. And, you know, performance equals potential minus interference, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of that, being courageous and working for it. So with that being said, when you got into the band, can you explain a little more about the genre that you chose and that you're working in, and how you use your courage in your performance in your work with the band and or separately? Yeah.
So the current genre that I'm in right now is country, and it chose me. I didn't choose it.
Very cool.
But
sounds juicy.
I like my thing is rock music. Like I love singing like Alanis, Melissa Etheridge, Bonnie Raitt, like
Sweet.
Pink, all that kind of, you know, powerful kind of grovelly a little bit.
Yeah.
Female vocal.
Definitely.
And I wasn't like a huge country person, but I knew the band was busy and I wanted to be in like a, you know, a working band. And I was like, well, you know, I'll learn it. I'll audition and see what happens. And as I was learning the songs, I'm like, this is pretty much the same kind of vocal that I like singing. It's just a different kind of music. And I wound up really loving it. And I like that the songs are like a story, and it's not like mindless pop. Like when I was in like a wedding band, like singing like Dua Lipa, and it's just kind of like dance music. Like
Right.
I'll do it if I have to, but I want to sing something that like people like love that song, or they're impressed by the way that I do it, or I wound up really falling in love with country, so I'm enjoying it.
That's great. Well, I've heard some of it on your Facebook page occasionally. I'd like to hear a lot more. We'll discuss that in a bit. But
Yeah.
I guess that grovelly tone attracts you. Yeah, you're talking about that the pink vocals that she does, and all the women that you mentioned have that sort of tone, and I hear it in your voice. So it sounds like it's a match, right?
Yeah,
Feels
I
good
love
for
it.
you. Yeah, that's great. So you guys out doing gigs? Where do we find you? How is that?
Well, we are very busy. We have a management company, so they book us around.
Great.
Most notably, we're at the Hard Rock in Atlantic City at least once a month. Other than that, we do the casino up in Queens, Resort World.
Oh yeah.
We play the Paradise Grill in Delaware. Like those are like the big, places that we play. But then they also hire us for like when townships have big events, like street fairs or whatever, stuff like that. So we're rarely playing a bar. We do play some bars, but we're mainly doing casinos and events.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're doing 500 plus people at a shot, it sounds like, in the audience. Is that how your
Yeah.
venues are? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That is
I
so
love it.
cool. So let's talk about that, being on stage.
Okay.
And how that is. Tell us how you work that in your energy group.
I love it. I remember I was at one of my gigs at the Hard Rock a few months ago, and this guy came up to me during my first break, and he goes, "You really have the life." Like he was just like, he loved everything that was happening. And that's like one of those things I'll never forget. And maybe like to somebody else, it's like, who cares? But like to me, I felt like I do have the life. Like I have the nerve to get up and do something that I love and enjoy. And I don't care if somebody thinks I'm good or not, or if I'm embarrassing myself, or, that was really like a nice compliment that he gave me. So when I'm up on stage, I'm really grateful to be there.
That's great. And
Yeah.
so the fact that you're able to put aside the judgment, don't let the outside interference distract you is a tremendous thing. And again, when we start talking about core energy and how we work in our own dynamics, the fact that you're able to stay within yourself and do away with that noise, it's uses metaphor. It's, life can be sort of like a hurricane at times. There's all this activity going on around us, and we're trying to focus and get ourselves so-called straight away. And there's just so many distractions. And if we think about it as a metaphor, what's in the middle of the hurricane is that calm, the eye, right? All that's right there. So it's available for each and every one of us out there. It's just understanding how our systems work. And with that means, being courageous, stepping out, taking that conscious choice, not the knee-jerk reaction choice of just that. You take conscious choice, take calculated risk. And that's what you're pointing to. But it seems like you have a certain magic to it because you speak about it so nonchalantly, Kat. And, I know other artists as well that get butterflies, and I'm sure there's part of what you do too. And it's interesting. Everyone has their own take when they're up there on stage, and has their own little means of being able to deal with all the uncertainties that might happen, and to get into your flow. So tell us how you find you get yourself into your zone on your prep work, getting ready to perform, and when you're out there in your zone, how you get into your flow with the collaboration of the band and engaging the audience all at the same time.
So my answer to that kind of is the way that I think about my entire life.
There we go.
And I affectionately call it my deathbed mentality.
I can't wait to hear it. Now you got the attention of the audience. You have all along, but now you really got it going. So cool. Let's go with that.
No, so I had the privilege of sitting with 3 of my 4 grandparents while they passed. And my grandfather that I was talking about earlier, he was speaking on his deathbed, and he had a lot of things to say about things that regrets. And they were little things even. And like one of the things was, growing up in Newark, there was a boy in the neighborhood who was clearly gay, and it was like the 1920s. And the kids used to pick on him relentlessly. And my grandfather didn't participate, but he didn't stop it. And that at 91 years old on his deathbed was talking about that.
Wow. How powerful is that?
Yeah. And to me, for him to live his entire life feeling guilty about that, like really was sad to me. And so I think to myself, especially when something scares me or makes me nervous or, change is happening, I imagine myself on my deathbed and I think like, what should I do to not have that regret? And so that's how I've been living. And most recently, a friend of mine just passed from stage 4 cancer. And
sorry to hear that. That's brutal.
Yeah, it was like really hard. It was less than a year, like from the time he was diagnosed to the time he passed, he was gone. And, he was only 45 years old and he had 2 small kids. And I'm just thinking like, he didn't really have a great life. He didn't really travel. I don't know how happy he was. He was a little depressive. And I just think like since he passed, I'm like, I just want to like live every day for him and for people who can't, So when I'm up on stage, I just think about how fortunate I am to be there.
Wow. Certainly powerful moments, and that servants in you is a theme that, we've been hearing all the way through. And I learned that from you when we first met. You're always caring about other people, looking to make them happy. And albeit, look at you, you're a performer up on stage, and that's a big part of who you are. And, you're pointing out something very profound, and this is what we like to talk about when we talk about core energy experience, and that is, everything. We have this toolbox of experience, right? And people like to define them as good or bad. We stay away from that because it's all growth. All experiences are growth, and that's the bottom line. But to your point of not wanting to leave anything behind or unchecked, I get that. And that's an important aspect of understanding who we are, because in that understanding comes into the moment, right? And you get this, and we all understand it, but it's just reminding ourselves, in that moment is where all the action is. Everything's there. The past is the past. That's like going back and thinking about that. It's like dreaming backwards, or the future, projecting for the future and whatnot. These are all things that we do, but we learn to control them better. And that also is a dreaming forward. The only thing that's not a dream is in the now, in the action. And in that action, we get to be as raw and as authentic as we're ever going to be, because we're in that moment of the energy. And if we capture that, we can deliver some really powerful things to us and then put them out into the world as we like, i.e. what you do there on stage and how you get up there, and you're up there with intention and this courage, as you pointed out. That's just part of you. So let's have a little fun with it. If you're in the middle of a song, and all of a sudden a band member maybe loses sound or a wrong chord, or you started a song and it isn't on the same level or the same song pattern that you're choosing. What do you do when you have these missteps, if you will, these screw ups, or however you want to call it? What do you do about that?
We all look at each other and laugh.
You look at each other and laugh, of course.
Yeah, because we're all like, we all get along so well, and we have more amazing shows than not amazing shows. So it's like, we all know that each other's capable. And so if somebody makes a mistake, it was a mistake. We don't get bent out of shape about it.
So what do? You just keep on playing and that's it? Or depending on how it happens, reset and adjust? Yeah,
it depends. Like sometimes like you don't ever just want to like stop,
Right, of course.
Because what happens is we realize it's a mistake, but nobody else might realize it. So then if you do like a cold stop, then everybody's like, oh, what happened? So like there's definitely ways we get around it.
Yeah, so keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we help out here with the Core Energy Experience too, is that, time is on our side. Why is that? Because it's constantly changing. So why don't we as individuals understand the same thing and do the same thing? Because we're constantly changing, right? Yeah. We're going from our transitions into our transformations, and you have done it in numerous ways, and you will continue to do so throughout your lifetime. And that's really so important that we concentrate on ourselves and bring that out to the world, because we all have so many gifts. And here you are, pointing out your gifts here real quick, and certainly multitasking is one of your gifts.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, because you mentioned you have a child and you are a mom. So tell us a little bit about how that fits into your schedule of your busy life and how Kat and who you are.
Well, everything else has to fit into that schedule. So
there we go. Right. There are priorities, huh?
Yeah. So it's really difficult, especially, I wound up getting separated when my son wasn't even 2 years old. So it's been, 5 or 6 years of doing it by myself.
Not easy.
But it's like the type of thing where it's like, well, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. So you quickly figure it out. And I was really proud of myself. Like, it was hard. It was, there were times where I was like really angry about everything that was happening, or, I felt like, why isn't this person helping me? Or why, I guess, I was feeling a little sorry for myself at some point.
Understandable.
But then when you don't really have any other options, you just make it work. So I think, that turned into now, like, I want to do everything by myself all the time. Like, and I don't want to be like Miss Independent. Like, I like having support, but, my default is to just like do things myself without really asking for help. I just figure it out. And then people go, why didn't you ask me for help? And I'm like, I don't know. It was just easier for me to do it.
Yeah, I get that part, because then you're able to accept, how it is and keep pushing yourself through. Yeah. That's a big thing. Otherwise, and I know people mean well, to your point, but there's judgment in there. And that's another thing we want to work with. Judgment is just a harmful thing. Mm-hmm. And the less we can judge and the more we can act and do, the better we feel about ourselves. And that's really an important, thing in all we do in life, even to collaborate. Now, you're a big collaborator. We've seen that here a tremendous amount. So let me ask, do you have plans to be a family musical group? Are there any of that coming on in the future here? So, well, my son plays guitar. I shouldn't say he plays guitar. He takes guitar lessons. Good. Well, he's playing it. If he's good, he's got lessons. He's playing it. Yeah, that's great. Before guitar lessons, he was taking piano lessons. Wow.
I have my grandparents' piano here, and he always used to like, play around with it. And I thought, if he keeps going back and he's playing it, he clearly has an interest. So I called the local music school, and they're like, oh, he's too young, and I was like,
Oh, really?
why? So
I didn't know there was an age set up for that. What is the age?
It's funny. Different people, different music teachers like different ages. And I think different instruments require different ages. Like, I think if you were doing something like the drums, like just basic things, like they could be young, but like to have the dexterity to play the guitar, you have to be a little bit older. But when I had called the music school just to like ask, I didn't give them any like personal information. I was just calling to ask. Sure. And then when they gave me the answer that I didn't want to hear, I went and I signed him up, and I lied about his age.
Did you? There we go.
Yeah. I learned how to bend the rules from my mom. So
yeah, it's all right.
So he was playing, he was going to piano lessons and playing. He wasn't, it wasn't like a waste of anybody's time. He was participating. So I feel like when a child expresses interest in something, you want to like pick up on it right away. Don't let it go, So that's what I did. And he lost a little bit of interest in the piano, but still liked the music, and he wanted to transition over to guitar, but he still plays around with the piano at home.
That's awesome. Well, the piano is, the catch-all, as you know, to all the instruments, 100%. So is the guitar electric or acoustic?
He has an electric guitar.
Oh, he goes, huh?
Yeah. And he's a good singer, too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
taking after
he's
his
really
mama.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, and can't wait to see his progression in life and see how he comes along with it. You certainly got a great example for it, that's for
sure. My
sure.
dreams would come true if he became a musician.
Is that right? Really? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. To think he'd go on tour with them, be a promo and all that good stuff.
I have this like daydream of him being like a famous musician, and then like calling me out on stage, and I like,
there we go.
Like 60 years old coming out on stage. I think that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you artists in so many ways. And one of them is that, you're able to take it wherever you go in life. And, I tried the piano a little bit and didn't stay with it, got distracted by sports, and I look back, and I actually just picked up the guitar. And Alex, who you met, is how I met him, and he said he would give me guitar lessons. So,
nice.
You can always start the playing any instrument, as you know. Music's a fantastic form of communication, and I think it's something that I think we all appreciate it to a certain point. But boy, I have to say, you ladies and gentlemen who are out there on stage performing the way you do and giving all that energy in those moments is really very special. And certainly my hat's off to you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
And just think of all the pleasure that you bring. So, Kat, we have a few more minutes, just a couple more questions. The energy that you have is just really magnificent in the way you're able to disperse it about. And that one little concern you have about, not leaving anything unchecked because of what, your grandfather had said. And, we have moments like that in life. Life's moving very quickly these days, Kat. How do you keep yourself in check to make sure you're checking your boxes during the course of your day?
That's a good one. I think it's probably when I start feeling discouraged or like some kind of like negative emotion associated with whatever's happening. Like, I'm not progressing the way that I want to, or, I was trying to recruit this person and they decided they didn't want to join, or, I think to myself, like, you could let that just like hold you back and just be stagnant and just give up. Or you could just like keep pushing through. I feel like the theme of my life is to just like keep pushing through. because you know, I've been in places where I've felt very low, and I've been in places where I'm flying high. And so, when you're in that low feeling, remembering there was a time and there will be another time that I feel like I'm flying high again. So I just push through.
That's excellent. And yes, and that's part of the understanding that we were talking about time. Time's going to change anyway, so why don't we? And you're a perfect example of that. You live in those moments, Kat, whatever you've been doing in your life, and it's really special. And, stay there. As you well know, that's why you find your comfort there. You mentioned something earlier about, being uncomfortable. A lot of us make the mistake or the choice to be comfortable, uncomfortable. And we don't want that. We want it the other way around in order to perform to the best of our ability from within, and then to bring it out to the world as it is. And that's to be uncomfortable, getting comfortable. Mm-hmm. And you have described that in many different ways today, and appreciative of that. And you're an example of, to continue going on, to keep the heartbeat going, as we say, and to check things all along the way, and to give your love, Kat's love, internally out to the world, which you are doing right now with your leadership role in real estate, your role in your band, and in your style, and your creativity and art, and your beautiful son. So really, really nice to hear, Kat. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
So again, thank you so much for being on. I do have one last question, if I may.
Okay.
If you were to, in today's world, start all over again and not do what you have done, what would you choose to do you
As a profession?
However you want to answer that. It's up to you.
Say it one more time.
If you were to start all over, your life all over, in today's world as it is now, what would that be, not repeating what you've already done? What would you envision yourself doing outside of what you've done to this point?
I think that I would be a farmer.
Like it.
Because this, although I'm in two industries that are very tech heavy.
Yes.
I am constantly searching for the disconnect. And I just like the idea of waking up early and spending time with animals and watering plants and just having a low, I shouldn't say it's low stress, because having a farm is a lot of work, but not, the constant dopamine hit of looking at your phone and people having constant communication with you. I think it's just, I don't think it's good for us. And
agreed.
So if I had to do it all over again, I think I would just live quietly on a farm and cuddle with my cows.
Love it. Love it. There's so much to be said about, working with our environment, particularly nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big advocate of it. I actually help put myself through my early stages of late teens and school and whatnot, working on farms.
Oh,
so
really?
I know farm work. Yes, I know it intimately. And to this day, I really, if I had my choice of things to do during the day, I'd like to be in the gardens. Mm-hmm. I'd like to be out in a farm, working with the animals, getting my hands dirty. So I get exactly where you're coming from, and not surprising that you went there, because you are so multitasking in a world that's very busy these days. And to bring it down a notch and to appreciate what's really profound, that is what nature has given us. And, we look at nature as an example of who we are. because it does exactly what we're meant to be. Change our colors, right? Change our posture, change our attitude, change, because we're always in that transition into another transformation, just like nature all around us. It's quite a connection we have. And again, not surprising that you would choose that, because you're connected in every way anyway, Kat. And you're so beautiful.
And there's something so satisfying, especially like growing food, that's like, you're so proud of it. And
yes.
When I think about the time and care that it takes to put into, plants and gardening and things like that, I try to treat people the same way, because I feel like, I think especially since having my own child, when you have your own child, it really makes you remember things from your own childhood. And, I think particularly negative things, at least in my mind. But, and I just like look at everybody like that's somebody's baby, and like, you don't know like what they've been through or how they're treated. And I always teach my son, like, be kind to everybody. You don't know what kind of life they have at home. School might be their sanctuary. And, to just think not everybody has it as good as you. So I don't know what that really has to do with gardening and farming, but
yeah, I do.
Caring for plants was the same thing as caring for people, I guess.
100%. It's the same type of idea. If we don't help the plants germinate, we don't help them, help them grow, cut back the dead parcels of the pieces of the flower or the tree or whatnot, what happens. So, no, I get it. It all relates to everything. Yeah. And again, I'm big about nature, and I know that you are too. And great to know that, Kat. So, well, thank you very much for your time today, Kat. Your energy is superb. I know the audience has enjoyed every minute of it. And, we do have our guests come back occasionally. I hope you decide to come back eventually sometime too. That would be great, and keep checking in on you. And so if if you want people to find you or look you up, Kat, is there any way that you like to suggest that they do that?
I'm old fashioned and I like Facebook.
Yeah.
So just Catherine Maranino on Facebook. Or on Instagram, I'm Curiosity Killed Cat.
Ah, very good. Curiosity Killed Cat. You got it all working, woman. Yeah. You are fabulous. You really are stupendous. Thank you again for all your time, your beautiful energy, and you're such a pleasure, Kat. And we'll see you soon. So thank you very much. I
appreciate it, Kurt.
So everyone out in the audience there, whatever platform you're on, please hit that button. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, many others, and give us a like, a subscribe, or a comment. We really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us in today's excellent episode with Kat. And we learned so much about a lot of things about core energy. So everyone, keep moving on and stay empowered. Bye-bye now.